October 2024, northern Davis County, Utah. A remote stretch of marshland, miles away from anything that feels civilized. Just days earlier, a massive storm had rolled through the area. The aftermath was everywhere. Snapped tree limbs, thick layers of heavy mud, and floodwaters pushed far beyond their normal levels. Now, dozens of people were moving slowly through that swampy terrain. They weren't civilian volunteers. They weren't locals. They were heavily equipped National Guard personnel. They had divided the area into sectors, methodically searching through the reeds, unstable shorelines, and shallow inlets. Their assignment was painfully specific: find anything that clearly didn't belong in that natural landscape. During another sweep, one of the search teams spotted a large, dark object in the distance. It was wedged deep inside the thick reeds, rocking heavily with the movement of the water. Several team members stepped into the swamp, secured the object, and dragged it back onto solid ground. What was sitting in front of them was a massive rooftop cargo carrier, a standard plastic storage box, the kind families usually mount on top of a minivan before a long road trip across the country. The manufacturer's logo was still clearly visible on the lid. Investigators were called to the scene immediately. Right there on the shoreline, officers forced the soaked cargo box open. Inside, there was no camping equipment, no luggage, no spare tire. The container was completely empty, but as investigators examined the inside walls and bottom of the box, they noticed multiple dark brown stains spread across the plastic surface. Crime scene specialists tested the material on site using a chemical reagent. The reaction was immediate. The cargo carrier contained a massive amount of human blood. Someone had clearly tried to wash the plastic clean, but the biological evidence had already soaked deep into the porous material. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're breaking down a case that's anything but typical. A story where the image of the perfect American dream hid deeply disturbing facts underneath. Before we start piecing together the full timeline of this investigation, take a second to support the video. Drop a like, leave a comment, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That support helps these investigations reach more people and motivates me to keep digging through reports, documents, and case files. Now, let's get into the evidence. The blood-covered cargo box recovered from the reeds immediately became the center of the investigation. Samples were rushed to a laboratory for DNA analysis. Not long after, investigators received a match. The blood belonged to a person whose disappearance just weeks earlier had already triggered a major investigation. The missing man was 51-year-old Matthew Johnson. Before he vanished, Matthew lived in the upscale Cottonwood area just outside Salt Lake City. He was raising 3 children and leaving home for duty every morning. But Matthew wasn't an ordinary office worker. He was a veteran and an active member of the 19th Special Forces Group of the United States Army National Guard. The Green Berets. His job demanded extreme endurance, discipline, and mental control. And somehow, a highly trained soldier like Matthew had simply disappeared from his own home. He hadn't taken his belongings, he hadn't taken his wallet, he hadn't even taken his keys. Investigators now faced the question that would define the entire case. How did a rooftop cargo carrier from the family vehicle end up dumped in a swamp miles away from the house? And who could have overpowered someone the government had spent years training to survive under almost any conditions? To understand what led to this crime, we need to go back to the beginning. Matthew and Jennifer's story started back in 2012. At the time, Matthew was 39 years old and already had years of military experience behind him. He had also gone through a relatively calm divorce from his first wife. Jennifer, born in February 1982, grew up in a comfortable part of Cottonwood and remained extremely close with her parents, Thomas and Rosalie. They were deeply involved in their daughter's life and regularly became involved in family matters. The relationship between Matthew and Jennifer moved quickly. By 2014, they were officially married. On the surface, they looked like the perfect match. Matthew carried himself with the reliability and structure you'd expect from a military man. Jennifer appeared to be a warm, family-oriented stay-at-home mother. The couple purchased a home worth well over $1 million. Over the years, they welcomed 3 children into the family. To everyone around them, They looked like the definition of the perfect American household. Matthew continued building his military career through the National Guard, while Jennifer handled life at home. Fellow service members visited the house regularly. Neighbors saw weekend barbecues, smiling family photos, and a perfectly maintained lawn. Nobody suspected anything was wrong, but people often judge a family by the version presented to the outside world, and the Johnson family's polished image would eventually begin to collapse. By the summer of 2024, their 10-year marriage was falling apart. In July, Jennifer filed for divorce. Almost immediately, the process stalled because of major disagreements over two issues: the division of their expensive property and custody of their 3 children. Neither side was willing to compromise, so the couple continued living under the same roof while the legal battle dragged on. The situation quickly became toxic. Matthew began finding reasons to spend less time at home. As an experienced military serviceman, he increasingly chose to stay overnight at the National Guard barracks instead of returning to the house. According to several colleagues, Matthew admitted that the atmosphere at home had become unbearable. He reportedly even expressed concern for his own physical safety during confrontations with Jennifer. By August, the conflict had moved fully into the courtroom. Jennifer filed for a protective order against her husband, but after reviewing the couple's messages and documented interactions, the magistrate denied the request. Court records later indicated that Jennifer had regularly initiated arguments, insulted her husband, and displayed aggressive behavior throughout the marriage. At one point, the judge reportedly suggested that if anyone in the relationship appeared to need protection, it was Matthew. Then investigators uncovered another major piece of the story. Jennifer had allegedly started seeing another man behind her husband's back. According to the investigation, the two regularly met while Matthew was away on duty or staying overnight at the military base. The man's identity was not initially made public, but he would soon become a key figure in the investigation. Then there was the financial side. Matthew carried a $500,000 life insurance policy. Jennifer was listed as the sole beneficiary. If Matthew suddenly disappeared or died, Jennifer could potentially gain control over the family assets and receive a substantial insurance payout. And when you look at enough true crime cases, certain potential motives appear again and again: money, family disputes, custody battles, property. But which one mattered most here? The insurance money, the custody fight, or something else entirely? By September 2024, the tension inside the Johnson home was reaching a breaking point. Late that month, Matthew suddenly stopped showing up at his National Guard unit. For someone with his level of military training and years of service, missing duty without a serious explanation was highly unusual. At first, leadership was told that Matthew had taken emergency leave. The explanation was that his father had supposedly suffered a sudden stroke and needed constant care. But the days passed. The approved leave period expired. Matthew never returned. Fellow service members tried calling him. His phone was unreachable. Every call went straight to voicemail. By September 28th, several concerned colleagues contacted law enforcement and requested a welfare check at the family home. Officers contacted Jennifer and asked her to come in for questioning. She calmly arrived at the Cottonwood police station and gave investigators her version of events. According to Jennifer, she hadn't seen her husband since September 20th. She claimed that earlier that evening, the couple had a serious argument. After the confrontation, Matthew allegedly told her he needed a break. He supposedly said he would be gone for 1 week and specifically instructed her not to contact him during that time. Jennifer told detectives that she simply respected his wishes and waited for him to return. But investigators immediately noticed something strange. Her husband was missing. He wasn't reporting for duty. His phone was turned off. Yet she hadn't contacted authorities. She hadn't called local hospitals. And investigators believed she didn't appear genuinely alarmed. On paper, the situation could still have looked like a normal disappearance following a domestic argument. But detectives weren't taking chances. Search teams began checking the surrounding neighborhoods and gradually expanded the search area. Then they got their first major break. Matthew's personal vehicle was found abandoned on the side of a road in a nearby residential area. The car was locked. Nobody was inside. At that point, investigators changed their strategy. Detectives obtained access to digital records connected to Jennifer's cell phone activity. When analysts reviewed the location and billing data, they discovered something suspicious. On September 21, one day after Matthew's reported disappearance, Jennifer's phone showed a long trip far north into Davis County. Then the phone suddenly disconnected from nearby cell towers for several hours. For a significant period of time, the device effectively disappeared from the network. Investigators began pulling surveillance footage from traffic and security cameras along the estimated route. After reviewing hours of video, detectives found footage from a local self-service car wash. And what they saw immediately caught their attention. Jennifer's family minivan was parked inside one of the wash bays. She was seen meticulously cleaning the interior. Every surface, every seat, every floor mat. Investigators later noted that she appeared especially focused on the rear cargo area. She was scrubbing the inside of the van as though she were trying to eliminate every possible trace. By itself, washing a vehicle isn't a crime. But investigators now had several pieces of evidence pointing in the same direction. The abandoned vehicle, the unexplained trip into a remote northern county, the phone going dark, and the intense cleaning of the minivan. The case was no longer looking like a simple disappearance. Detectives prepared to request a full search warrant for the Johnson home. When investigators finally entered the property, everything initially looked normal. The furniture was neatly arranged. The floors were spotless. The house appeared calm and organized. But the moment crime scene specialists entered the master bedroom and applied chemical reagents to the floor and bed frame, the picture changed completely. Under the bed, investigators discovered large areas of washed-away biological evidence. Human blood had soaked deep into the wooden slats beneath the mattress, and there was still a faint, sharp smell of bleach in the room. Someone had clearly spent enormous effort trying to clean the area. But experienced investigators know that biological evidence can be extremely difficult to remove completely. Then they noticed another major detail. The original mattress was gone. Investigators shifted their attention toward Jennifer's parents, Thomas and Rosalie. The older couple told investigators that they had stopped by their daughter's house shortly after Matthew disappeared. According to them, they stayed for less than an hour, picked up a few belongings, and left. But neighbors gave investigators a very different story. Multiple witnesses said the couple wasn't there for 1 hour. They were inside the property for more than 5 hours. And according to those witnesses, they spent much of that time intensely cleaning the house. Then investigators uncovered something even more suspicious. Rosalie had personally purchased a brand new mattress to replace the missing one. When detectives requested access to her phone for forensic analysis, they discovered that the device had recently been reset to factory settings. Messages, call logs, location records, everything had been wiped. But the biggest mistake came from Thomas. During another conversation with police, he suddenly said, "I never even went into the room where the incident happened." Detectives immediately took notice, because until that moment, investigators had never told Thomas there was a crime scene inside the house. They hadn't mentioned blood. They hadn't mentioned the bedroom, and they hadn't told him where the incident may have happened. With one sentence, Thomas appeared to reveal that he already knew far more than he should have. The circle around the family was tightening, and investigators now needed the story from someone who had remained hidden. On October 2, 2024, investigators received an unexpected phone call. An unidentified man asked to speak directly with the head of the investigative division. He wanted a completely confidential meeting. His voice was nervous, shaken. It was clear that he was frightened by whatever he had become involved in. This was the same man investigators believed had been involved in an affair with Jennifer. At some point, the situation became too serious for him to ignore. He decided to step out of the shadows and cooperate with law enforcement. Inside the interview room, the witness didn't come with vague suspicions. He brought digital evidence, saved text messages, and hidden audio recordings of conversations with Jennifer. He then described what had happened roughly 10 days earlier. According to his statement, Jennifer had come to his home on September 22nd. She appeared emotionally charged and unusually talkative. During that visit, she allegedly confessed to killing her husband and described what she had done afterward. But investigators were especially disturbed by another detail. The witness said he noticed large, fresh bruises on Jennifer's body. The marks appeared consistent with heavy physical exertion. He asked where the injuries came from. According to the witness, Jennifer calmly explained that the bruises happened while packaging and transporting Matthew's body. She also allegedly said that she had suffered cuts and scrapes while cleaning the house and removing evidence from the bedroom. Detectives began analyzing the audio recordings. One particular conversation stood out. Jennifer's voice sounded remarkably calm. At one point, she allegedly asked the witness not to see her as a monster and to remember the positive version of her he had once known. The man reminded her that she had taken the life of a real person, the father of her children. Then came the statement investigators would later consider deeply disturbing. Jennifer allegedly responded, "He wasn't a person anymore. He wasn't Matt anymore." Those recordings changed everything. The cargo carrier in the marsh, the suspicious trip, the car wash, the bleach, the missing mattress, the behavior of Jennifer's parents, the witness statements, and the recorded conversations. For the first time, investigators believed they could reconstruct the entire sequence of events. So they went back to the night of September 20. Using forensic evidence, cell phone data, surveillance footage, and witness statements, detectives began piecing together what they believed happened. That evening, Jennifer took her 3 children to her parents' home. The house was now empty, except for Jennifer and Matthew. Later that night, investigators believe the couple consumed a large amount of alcohol. At some point, the argument between them exploded. Matthew allegedly learned about Jennifer's affair. The confrontation became the final breaking point in a marriage already collapsing under divorce proceedings, custody disputes, and years of conflict. Eventually, Matthew went upstairs to the bedroom. He lay down on his side of the bed, and he fell asleep. According to investigators, Jennifer waited until her husband was unconscious. She then retrieved a 9mm handgun. Detectives believe she entered the bedroom, approached the sleeping veteran, and fired a single shot. The gunshot struck Matthew in the head. Investigators found no indication of a significant struggle. They believed Matthew had little or no opportunity to defend himself. Blood soaked into the mattress and spread across the wooden bed frame. What happened next became the center of the investigation. Investigators believe Jennifer began destroying evidence. She allegedly destroyed Matthew's phone, eliminating potential digital records. Then she removed the large rooftop cargo carrier from the family minivan. According to investigators, she brought the oversized container into the house and placed Matthew's body inside. Moving the container became extremely difficult. The heavy box repeatedly struck the stairs, walls, railings, and wooden steps. Investigators later believed this may have caused the bruises seen on Jennifer's body. After getting the container downstairs, Jennifer allegedly returned to the bedroom. She began aggressively cleaning the blood-covered area with household chemicals and large amounts of bleach. She then loaded the cargo carrier into the rear of the family minivan. But investigators believe she knew that leaving immediately could create an obvious trail. So another part of the scene had to be staged. Jennifer allegedly drove Matthew's personal vehicle into a nearby residential neighborhood and abandoned it on the side of the road. The goal, investigators believed, was to make it appear that Matthew had voluntarily disappeared. She then returned home. Later, she drove the minivan north, beyond the city limits, into a remote part of Utah. Investigators believe Matthew's body was buried somewhere in that isolated area. Afterward, Jennifer allegedly took the blood-covered cargo carrier to the Davis County marshlands and dumped it into the swamp. She may have hoped the mud, flooding, and storm damage would permanently hide the evidence. But the plan didn't work. The cargo carrier was eventually discovered, and that discovery helped investigators connect the disappearance to the blood found inside the family home. The arrests made in October 2024 triggered a long and complicated court process. Jennifer was formally charged with multiple criminal counts, including first-degree murder connected to Matthew's death. Prosecutors are pursuing a sentence that could keep her behind bars for life. The court denied bail, and she remains in custody while awaiting trial. Her contact with her children has also been restricted. Meanwhile, her parents, Thomas and Rosalie, face charges connected to the alleged destruction of evidence. Unlike Jennifer, they have been allowed to remain outside custody under strict court supervision. The legal proceedings have faced repeated delays. Defense attorneys have challenged procedural issues and have fought against the admission of the audio recordings. And in May 2026, another postponement was approved. The jury trial is now scheduled for December. Until the case reaches a final verdict, major family assets remain tied up in the legal process. But perhaps the most devastating part of this entire story is what happened to Matthew's children. In a single period of time, their entire family life collapsed. Their father was gone. Their mother was facing a murder case, and the adults around them were caught up in a criminal investigation. The children are now living with relatives and receiving professional support. Yet even after everything investigators uncovered, one enormous question remains. Where is Matthew Johnson? His body has never been found. Despite the blood-covered cargo carrier, cell phone records, surveillance footage, witness statements, and recorded conversations, large-scale searches have failed to recover his remains. And that missing piece has become a central issue in the defense strategy. The defense can argue that without a body, proving exactly what happened becomes more difficult. But prosecutors have another argument. They have physical evidence, digital evidence, surveillance footage, witness testimony, and recordings that investigators say connect the pieces together. So the question now is simple. Will all of that evidence be enough to secure a conviction? Or could the defense create reasonable doubt because Matthew's body has never been found? That is ultimately for a jury to decide. Until then, the disappearance of Matthew Johnson remains a disturbing case of a seemingly perfect American family hiding a reality that investigators say was far darker than anyone around them could have imagined. If you found this investigation interesting, support the video with a like and subscribe to the channel. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you again very soon.